controllers, a 24-fader fully customizable control surface, and a new point-to-point routing system that allows you to select from 374 different inputs and outputs. The lighting on all of the scribble strips, LEDs, soft buttons, the patch panel in the rear of the console, and the underglow of the console can all be adjusted and personalized to how you like to work. With the flexibility, customization, and portability of the Wing, it's perfect for your touring act, house of worship, concert venue, or recording studio. The Wing I/O features 374 inputs and outputs, starting with the high-quality Midas Pro Series microphone preamplifiers, the 8 XLR outputs, an 8x8 1/4-inch TRS aux input and output section, and all of this digital I/O. We have 2 audio over IP ports that can be configured either for remote control data or optionally Waves SoundGrid or Dante enabled so that the console speaks Waves or Dante natively. You also have a 48x48 channel USB interface for connection to your DAW for recording purposes. We have 3 AES-50 ports. Now these can be connected to any existing M32 and X32 units as well as any existing stage boxes like the Behringer S16 or the Midas DL153. Next, you have Stage Connect, which is a new development from Clark Technic. Now, Stage Connect allows you to pass 32 channels, 24-bit, 48K digital audio down a single XLR connection. This can be configured as 24x8 or 16x16, depending on your purpose, maybe a personal monitoring system or a breakout box. We also have an AES EBU input and output, as well as the 64x64 expansion card slot, which right now has the Wing Live expansion card, which is a dual SD card recorder, each capable of 32x32 inputs and outputs. So you can use one card for playing audio back while you use another for recording. These have separate controls. Here, I have a session here that I will play back. But you know I'm a stranger, willing and able to do what you want. You think... Right now we have a virtual sound check playing back from the Wing Live expansion card. I'm going to go into our routing menu here and show you the source system. Now, rather than channels existing as a number, we think of sources existing as their purpose. So channel 1 and 2 here are a stereo drum track. So I can link the sources by just hitting the stereo button. That'll link input 1 and 2 into a stereo source. I can then rename the track drums, change it to a red color, and give it an input symbol. After I've done that, I can also add tags. We'll call this drums, and this would also fall under the category of an instrument. Now, any other source with these same tags can easily be added to a mute group or a DCA group by its tag. Now I'll set up the rest of my input sources from this virtual sound check. We already have the drums. Now let's get the bass here on input 3. This is also a stereo channel. We'll assign that. Five and 6 here are the rest of my instruments. And 7 and 8 are my lead vocals. Now that we have the sources set up, colored, named, and linked, we need to assign them to input channels. To assign a source to an input channel, simply select a channel, open the input section. We're going to add the main input, which for this channel will be our drums. So once we assign the stereo drum source to the channel automatically becomes stereo, and here's our drums. Channel 2 will be our bass. Channel 3 will be the rest of our instruments. And channel 4 will be our lead vocals. Now I have my main input source assigned here on channel 1, but say I wanted to add another input source, say for a backup microphone or a virtual sound check, I would select the alternate and add my alternate input source to be able to easily switch back and forth between my main input and my alternate input. This menu also gives me access to a variety of different input options, such as my balance, digital trim, clarity inversion, low cut, high cut, and tilt EQ, as well as an input delay. The next step in the processing would be the gate. Now here we have the powerful Wing gate. You have a multi-touch screen here to be able to adjust the gate parameters. You also have a key filter that can be a low pass, high pass, or band pass. You also have here a representation of the frequency spectrum of your key source. Here we have the Wing EQ. This is a very powerful 6-band EQ on all input channels and an 8-band EQ on the output channels. Now adjustments can be made using the touch-sensitive rotary encoders or the multi-touch touchscreen. You can grab all of the bands at once, make adjustments as you please. You can also select a single band and use the band solo feature if you want to hear only that band in your monitors so the audience can't hear you narrowing in on nasty frequencies. The Wing EQ also features hardware emulations, such as Pultec, SSL, and others. The Wing compressor is a powerful compressor that gives you control over all of the parameters you would need, such as threshold, ratio, knee, and then your envelope here. You also have a key filter. Now the Wing compressor is very powerful, but let's say you're looking for a specific sound that you can only get from a certain piece of analog hardware, like an LA2A, 1176, a red compressor, or others. Each channel also features pre-fader and post-fader insert points. This can be used to add an amplifier model, or a de-esser, or an additional EQ if needed. The post-fader insert point can also be used as an auto mix group. Now once you've done your channel processing and you're ready to send your channel out to your mains, the main out screen for each channel is here. You can select from one or all 4 of the main mixes. You have your panning control here. You can also narrow your stereo field, widen your stereo field, or completely invert the stereo image of the channel. This is also your output fader here, and your solo and mute control. As well as sending to the main mix, you might also want to send to some buses. Now, we have 16 fully stereo buses that you have an independent send from each channel to every bus. So if you want to send to bus 1, just like that, we also have an EQ that is specific for the send from the channel to a bus. Let's say somebody doesn't want all of the low end from the bass in their monitor. You can dial some of that out without affecting the main front of house mix. The Wing also features a 16 stereo space effects rack. You have 8 slots for premium effects, such as reverb and delay, and another 8 slots for standard effects, like additional EQ, compression if needed, as well as pitch correction and amp modeling. So if I was going to set up a delay for my main vocal, I would select a bus to use for the effect bus, go into the bus's insert point, and choose a delay. Make sure that bus is up, turn up my vocal channel, then hit the Sends on Fader button, and we're going to send the lead vocal to that effect bus now. Now the meters menu is going to show you everything that's going on the console right now, from all of your input channels, auxes, buses, matrices, and mains. Now if we need to take a closer look at a certain set of channels, all we have to do is tap on that bank, and it'll pull it up on the screen for us and show each channel strip. It's also going to put these channels down here in our middle bank of hardware faders. Now, we set up the fader layers in a way that makes sense. That's where we added the user 1 and user 2 layers. So if I select user 1, and hold down the View button here, I can create my own layer. So let's say I want my lead vocal and my delay bus, and I can even add the send from my lead vocal to my delay bus as a fader here. And then I have a completely customized fader layer that only includes exactly what I want to be working with. The library menu is also very flexible. Here on the main screen, you can save your snapshots. You can also set the recall scope if you only want to save or recall certain channels, or you want to exclude certain channels. You can also choose which parameters of your channel strip, your effects, or your routing that you want to save and recall. The channel strip section here will also give you an immediate overview of your selected channel. It'll show you your input properties, the level, your bus and group assignments. You also have immediate access to your EQ here, as well as your gate, compressor, insert point, and your send out to the mains. Now, everything we're doing here can or cannot be reflected on the main screen just by calling it up here. Now, the great thing about being able to separate what's happening here and what's happening here is that you can actually have two people working side by side without interfering with each other's workflow. Now, the 24 fader control surface features 3 distinct sections. You have 12 input faders that are generally going to be used for your input channels, although they can also be used for your bus channels or your user layer. You have the bus and DCA section here, which again, this can be used for whatever you want, but by default, this is going to be your buses and your DCA groups. Then you also have this separated section over here. This would typically be your mains, or you can create a user layer to assign your money channels, say your lead vocal or again your reverb, so that you can control those over here. Again, this is another situation where one person can work on this section while another person is over here working simultaneously. Now here we have the custom controls section, which has rotary encoders as well as soft buttons. Let's say we wanted to assign this encoder to control the pan of channel 1. We'd open up the menu here, select pan, drums, and then you can see that this is now the pan for that channel.
Hello everyone, I'm Eric with Midas and welcome to Music Studios. Today I have the M32, the flagship model in our M series of digital consoles. The M32 comes packed with the award-winning Midas microphone preamps, motorized faders, remote control mixing ability, even a full 32-channel audio interface, making it great for the live and studio setting. So let's take a look at some of the great features on the M32. Starting at the control surface, you will find 25 100mm Midas Pro Series faders. These are rated for over 1 million cycles each. They are split up into 16 for your inputs, 8 for your outputs and DCAs, and 1 dedicated for the master fader. How this works is we basically have layers selectable from these 4 buttons. So if I'm on 1 through 16, it's on this button. 17 through 32, you press right here. Your third layer displays your auxiliary inputs, which are found on the 6/4-inch input jacks on the rear of the console. Here we have playback from our dedicated USB 2-track recorder and return channels for the Eternal Effects rack. Each fader strip has its own mute and solo button with dedicated PFL metering that also displays compression and gate activity. But what's really awesome is the LCD scribble strip that allows channel naming with text and color and even has icons for you to utilize for a faster channel identification. At the top of each strip is the select button, which will select the channel and activates the channel strip for that channel. The controls for the channel strip are located right here at the top left section of the console. Starting with our gain control. The first encoder will control mic gain and digital trim with individually selectable 48 volts phantom power and polarity invert for each input. Next is a low cut that you can easily engage from the surface to dial right in. And you can hit the view button, which is found all over the console in each section to call up all the parameters for that section right onto the 7-inch TFT color screen, making it very easy to find what you're looking for and dial it in quick. Next, we'll find our gate and compressor, which you can start dialing in right from the surface and then again hit the view button to call up more advanced parameters. Here we have a 4-band fully parametric equalizer featuring a vintage and parametric mode with shelving available as well. But what's really cool is that all graphic and parametric EQs on the M32 feature a full 100-band RTA real-time analyzer that is displayed right on the screen. So you're not only hearing frequencies, you're seeing them too, really helping you dial in that perfect sound. Next are 4 encoders used to send signals to your 16 mix buses on the M32. So you got 4 encoders and 4 different layers similar to the faders. So if I'm on 1 through 4, I can easily press 5 through 8 and make any adjustments, and so on. Finally, we have a master section on the channel strip where you can engage the mono bus using the encoder to make a contribution. You have an encoder for panning and the ability to engage or disengage from the stereo bus. That was the channel strip for your inputs, and you have similar channel strip controls for your outputs. For all your mix buses, main left right, and your 6 matrix mixes, you will have compression ability, and the EQ actually becomes the 6-band parametric EQ. so lots of channel strip processing already available to you. The M32 features an 8-spaced stereo effects rack with over 50 digital copies of some of the most revered outboard gear in the industry right at your disposal. Divided into 2 sections, the first 4 slots are used for your send and return type effects like reverbs, delays, and choruses. The second 4 slots are set up for insert points for dual or stereographic EQs and dynamic type processing. Plus, right out of the box, you're already set up with 2 reverbs, a delay, and a chorus, and 8 channels of graphic EQs to start mixing right away. But it's easy enough to change the effect for whatever the mix calls for right from the encoders under the screen. Rounding out the control surface, we have some more controls on the right-hand side of the console, a dedicated mute group section with 6 groups for muting multiple channels at the push of a button. You also have a very handy assignable section, which will allow you to assign instant access to the most important parameters of your mix, right here using these 4 rotary encoders and 8 buttons. Now, these are on 3 separate layers labeled A, B, and C, giving you 36 controls to easily customize for whatever your mix flow needs. Above that, we have scene navigation control, which will allow you to save and recall scenes and snippets, which are basically mini scenes like an effect or a channel strip setting or a group of channels. You will have 100 scenes, 100 snippets, and combine those together to get up to 500 cues. So lots of flexibility when it comes to setting up your shows on the M32. Above that, you will find some controls for the monitors and talkback sections, which even features an oscillator that could be very useful for getting set up and checking signal. Touching briefly on the output section, starting with the first layer, your 8 DCAs. Now, the DCAs allow you to control volume levels for multiple channels, so you can take your full 32-channel mix and put them right here on these 8 faders for easier mixing. You also have 2 layers of 8 for mix buses, and your 4th layer will show your 6 matrix mixes and your mono bus. Matrix mixes are great for sending to a balcony or overflow room, and on the M32 you even have crossover filters inside the EQs for your matrix mixes, so a lot of great uses for those. And the mono bus is great as well, perfect for sending signal to your subwoofers. Lastly, at the top of the console we will find a USB recorder slot, which will allow us to record and play back uncompressed stereo wave files. It can also be used to back up or recall scenes or presets and load free firmware updates available at MidasConsoles.com. Starting on the back of the console, you'll find 32 of our legendary Midas microphone preamps. They're super clean and punchy to really elevate your sound. Below that are 6 additional 1/4-inch ins and outs, and the outputs are balanced and fully assignable so you can use them for whatever you like. They can also be used together to incorporate your favorite outboard gear. Next, we'll find some of our digital connectivity, starting with our 2 ports of AES-50, both on locking Ethercon connectors. These are going to be used to connect to the DL16s and other digital stage boxes. You can also use these to digitally split off to another console, maybe at Monitor World or a broadcast booth, just by connecting 2 consoles with these 2 ports. Very useful to have. Moving over, we have the Alternate port, which is used to directly interface with Turbo Sound Select speaker systems with the acoustic integration feature, and can also be used with the P16 personal monitoring systems. We have AES EBU digital stereo output and some MIDI connectivity, and then we find our remote port, which allows you to connect to an external router to open up the wireless mixing possibilities on the M32. We have free iOS, PC, Mac, and Linux-based apps available to download, so you can actually mix wirelessly with the console using your tablet or computer from anywhere in the room. You can download these apps for free at MidasConsoles.com. Finally, we have our expansion card slot, which comes preloaded with the DN32 USB module, which will give you a fully capable 32x32 channel audio interface for your computer. You can use this to record your shows and for virtual playback, or swap it out for other expansion card modules that are available like the DN32 ADAT, MADI, or Dante. Rounding out the back here, we have...
Okay, check 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello viewers out there. Good afternoon. From where I am in Ghana, it's afternoon, so I think it's in that order. Good afternoon to you all, and welcome to the first edition of Sound Basics with Emsarp Music. the sound basics with Emsarp music. Yeah, this program is just in here and outlined to help us all as Audiophiles, fellow sound engineers, including both FOH, which is front of house engineers, as well as those of monitor engineers as well. Then again, it's also an important event or program that will come your way this and every Saturday, except there may be some few changes that we would have to execute going forward. But as of now, it's going to be live every Saturday from 12:30 p.m. through to 1:30 p.m. Or even when we add the question and answers to it, we might get to around 2 o'clock. Then the import of this whole program is just to come your way with the various nitty-gritties, the fundamentals of sound. So including all those who uses sound for their events. It could be the musicians, instrumentalists, audio players, and anyone who uses music and sound to do his or her work. Actually, that is how it is going to help you. You know, the very basic point of this is that we just have to know why we do what we do. I hope you understand me. Why we do what we do. Why do you do this? Why do you create in or feel in something? Why do you do what you do on stage when you are singing? Why do you do what you do on stage when you are playing the instrument, the drums? Why do you do what you do when you are behind a console? Why do you do what you do when you are out there? And the very concept, the underlying concept behind what you do, that's exactly what we are talking about. Okay? So that is the basics. Now, one thing also which also dawned on me to start this whole process is that I've realized that because of the advent of technology and the advancement of technology, a whole lot of people are doing things the wrong way because they think the moment you are able to touch a PC to generate one or two sound, the moment you're able to connect two or more cables, you are good to go, without necessarily understanding the very concept, the underlying concept of what they are doing. So that also gave me the impression to help us all learn and unlearn the bad things and relearn the good things that we are supposed to do. All right. So basically, that is about sound basics with Emsarp music. Anyway, my name is Ebenezer Mensah. People just call me Emsarp. I'm the chief servant of Emsarp music. Located in Kumasi, right here in Ghana, but we work all over the country because we've been working in the 3 northern regions. We've been working in Accra, we've been working in Kumasi, Takoradi, everywhere. So wherever you call us and whatever we need, we are likely to go through and come through for you. All right, that being said, let me also add it to the point that, there's going to be a lot of interactions on this event, on this program every Saturday. There are times that we will be going onto the board to learn one or two things practically. There are times that we will learn the concept and the theories behind the various things that we find in our daily sound equipment and audio equipment. Again, there are even some calculations that you need to know, which if you don't know, you misapply everything and then your sound will become muddy, your program will become muffy and all that. So we're going to do all those things as we move on. All right? Then again, I'll not be the only one to be coming your way every Saturday. No. There are going to be guests and people who will be here to help. And then again, so on our show, we'll be looking at both live sound and studio sound. Live sound will be there, studio sound will be there, and then everything that we need to do as and when possible, we just do that. So as we move on, we're going to go through the theories. And let me first give a shout out to some of these great people out there who has made this work possible. Our own Emsarp Music, my assistant engineer Dennis is out here with me. He is helping us with the other technical background stuff. Shadrach Kasabil is around. And then let me give a shout out to Kalebashon Katai of iMix and Streamline Productions. He is of iMix School, that is music school, and then Streamline Productions. And also Andrew Klue of Cummins Studios. Let me give a shout out to Danny Bassi Mix, Bassi House of Music. And then my bro, Jerry Kwanzaa, the Sunyani Area Regional Chairman Commander. Yeah, these are great guys. Pastor Kakraba of Accra, of Reverb Studios, and Geometo's personal sound engineer. Our regards to you. These are great guys who are making it happen in Ghana and making it happen worldwide. Shout out to you all. And then Collins of Massive Music and of Otek FM. My bro, I greet you. Oti in Kumasi here, and all the sound engineers in Kumasi and the nation, throughout the nation. A special acknowledgement to my father in studio engineering, Koda. I bring you greetings from Emsarp Music. All right, viewers, let me take a very quick commercial break, and we will be right back to start with our lesson for the day. Lesson 1.
Hello everyone, I'm Eric with Midas and welcome to Music Studios. Today I have the M32, the flagship model in our M series of digital consoles. The M32 comes packed with the award-winning Midas microphone preamps, motorized faders, remote control mixing ability, even a full 32-channel audio interface, making it great for the live and studio setting. So let's take a look at some of the great features on the M32. Starting at the control surface, you will find 25 100mm Midas Pro Series faders. These are rated for over 1 million cycles each. They are split up into 16 for your inputs, 8 for your outputs and DCAs, and 1 dedicated for the master fader. How this works is we basically have layers selectable from these 4 buttons. So if I'm on 1 through 16, it's on this button. 17 through 32, you press right here. Your third layer displays your auxiliary inputs, which are found on the 6 1/4-inch input jacks on the rear of the console. Here we have playback from our dedicated USB 2-track recorder and return channels for the Eternal Effects rack. Each fader strip has its own mute and solo button with dedicated PFL metering that also displays compression and gate activity. But what's really awesome is the LCD scribble strip that allows channel naming with text and color and even has icons for you to utilize for a faster channel identification. At the top of each strip is the select button, which will select the channel and activates the channel strip for that channel. The controls for the channel strip are located right here at the top left section of the console. Starting with our gain control. The first encoder will control mic gain and digital trim with individually selectable 48 volts phantom power and polarity invert for each input. Next is a low cut that you can easily engage from the surface to dial right in. And you can hit the view button, which is found all over the console in each section to call up all the parameters for that section right onto the 7-inch TFT color screen, making it very easy to find what you're looking for and dial it in quick. Next, we'll find our gate and compressor, which you can start dialing in right from the surface and then again hit the view button to call up more advanced parameters. Here we have a 4-band fully parametric equalizer featuring a vintage and parametric mode with shelving available as well. But what's really cool is that all graphic and parametric EQs on the M32 feature a full 100-band RTA real-time analyzer that is displayed right on the screen. So you're not only hearing frequencies, you're seeing them too, really helping you dial in that perfect sound. Next are 4 encoders used to send signals to your 16 mix buses on the M32.
Okay, viewers, welcome back to our session. This morning we're doing this, what is sound? The basics of sound concept. What is sound? A lot of people do things without knowing what even the sound is. All right. So today we are just going. We get a little bit into physics and a bit of science, calculations here and there. So let's look at what is sound. In physics, we say sound is the vibration that propagates as an acoustic wave through a transmission medium, such as gas, liquid, or even solid. So with sound, anything that propagates, anything that vibrates for you to hear something, all right, is the sound. And in human physiology and psychology, we perceive it as the reception of such waves and their perception by the brain through the organ called ear. So if you have sound which is propagated, there can be a sound. If your brain is not able to interpret it, if your brain is not able to interpret it for you to hear with your ears, then I'm sorry, you are not hearing sound. All right. And so sound, we say, it is the reception of such waves and their perception by the brain through the organ called ear. Our slide is on the screen. You can see it all. Then again, you can also find more on our Facebook page, because we'll be posting our slides and tidbits every week now, here and there. So it is a form of energy which makes us hear. We just hear everything. All right. So we hear several sounds around us in every day. You and I, you hear certain sounds that are even so much of this thing to you, which you don't even understand. So sound can be said to be a physical phenomenon produced by the vibration of matter, as we have already said. Now, it is not every sound that we as human beings we hear. It's not every sound. Okay? So the kind of sound that we can hear, they are the only acoustic waves that have frequencies lying between about 20 hertz and up to 20 kilohertz. We will go to frequencies very soon, so you get to know what this frequency we are talking about is. A lot of people come to events without necessarily understanding what even a frequency is. They don't understand what a frequency is, yet they are playing instruments. So you will get to hear that. And the kind of frequencies that human beings, our ears, are able to hear, we call it the audio frequency or the audible frequency range. So whenever you have a microphone and we have written on it AF, the AF, please, it's not called Africa. The AF stands for audio frequency. It means the kind of frequency that our ears can hear as a human being. The kind of sounds that goes beyond our hearing, we call it the ultrasonic sound. Sound travels in a wave. We know that they travel in the form of wave. Okay? So, if we are looking at wave, what we know is that a wave is a vibratory disturbance in a medium which carries energy from one point to another. A wave is a medium. Okay? A wave is a vibratory disturbance in a medium which carries energy from one point to another without there being a direct contact. All right? So that is a wave. All right? And then there are two types of waves that we have. There are two types of waves. So on your screen now is a wave, is a sound wave. When sound travels, the way it comes, the way you see it, that is the sound wave you see. All right, so we are looking at wave and wavelength. All right, and we have already said that a wave is a vibratory distance in a medium which carries energy from one point to another. So when the sound is made, if you are standing at point A, you must be able to hear it at point B. That is the wave, because it travels in that distance. Okay? All right. And then let's also take a look at what is called a wavelength. Sorry, I didn't talk about the types of waves we have. There are two types of waves that we have. We have the longitudinal waves and the transverse waves. The longitudinal waves and the transverse waves. the kind of distance, the distance that we have, the way the sound travels, there are two waves to it. A wave in which the particles of the medium vibrate back and forth in the same distinct direction, in which the wave is moving, is called the longitudinal wave. Where the particles of the medium vibrate back and forth, that is longitudinal wave. And then we have the transverse waves, a wave in which the particles of the medium vibrate up and down at right angles to the direction in which the wave is moving. That is the transverse wave. So, per these two definitions, sound can authoritatively be said to be a longitudinal wave because it consists of compressions and rarefactions traveling through a medium back and forth. All right? So that is a wave, the longitudinal wave and the transverse wave. We won't talk much about the transverse wave. Quickly, let's move on to the characteristics of sound. The characteristics of sound or sound waves. The characteristics of sound wave. All right. There are 5 basic characteristics or properties of sound waves. These are the 5 basic. We have the wavelength. The wavelength. We have amplitude. I hope you are jotting down your points. We have the wavelength, the amplitude, time or period, velocity or ratio, velocity or speed, and then we have frequency. Wavelength, amplitude, time or period, velocity or speed, and then frequency. I'll talk briefly about them all, and then we will just be moving. Now, the wavelength is the distance, the minimum distance in which a sound wave repeats itself. It is the minimum distance in which the sound wave repeats itself. Okay? All right. And it is the length of one complete wave. If sound travels in one direction within a certain period, let's say in a particular second, and it is able to repeat itself, that is where sound wave length is measured. All right? And let me further describe it. That it is the distance from one crest to another, or from one trough to another trough. All right? Which may be the electromagnetic wave, or a sound wave, or any other wave. Crest is the highest point in the wave, whereas the trough is the lowest point. So if it's from the lowest point, it is the trough. If it gets to the highest point, it is the crest. All right? So if that particular distance, our science students will understand better. Okay? All right. So that is wave for you, wavelength for you. And it is denoted by the Greek letter lambda. Lambda. This, when you see this sign on your screen, it is called lambda. All right. Now let's have a look at what a wavelength is. Okay. The combined length of a compression and an adjacent refraction is called its wavelength. I've said this already before. Okay. So let's look at the picture of what a wavelength is. Let's look at that picture. The picture on your screen. We have what we call displacement. That is when the sound source is displaced. Okay, and then it moves from one point to another on your screen. You see it there. It moves from one point to another, from another distance to another, till as it moves on, this curve that you see is its magnitude, its amplitude, how loud or wide it is. And then this particular distance, this is the distance. The direction in which it is going is that particular direction. So we say that when it is able to repeat itself in a complete signal, then we call it a wavelength. So before a wavelength is calculated, there should be a displacement of the matter, all right? And there should be a distance covered, as well as there should be an amplitude, the loudness of that particular sound. All right. Note, the distance between the centers of compression and an adjacent refractions is equal to half of its wavelength. So mathematically, wavelength is represented as lambda over 2. lambda over 2. The SI unit for measuring wavelength is meter, because obviously it is in distance. Now let's look at the second point, the second characteristic, which is amplitude. When a wave passes through a medium, the particles of a medium get displaced temporarily from their original undisturbed points. Then the maximum displacement of the particles. Ladies and gentlemen, all that I'm trying to say here is that if you have a sound coming to you from where it was up to where it has come up to you, the distance, when that sound runs through these particles, whether in the medium of particle could be in a gas, which is in the air, it could be in the air, it could be in a different gaseous state. When it also gets to, what do you call it? It could be in the liquids or in water. It also could be in the form of any other matter or any other medium. When it passes through it, the particles of the medium get displaced temporarily, just for a short while. And then from their original undisturbed positions. Okay, baby, the thing, I was here and I was so undisturbed. I was just constant. The moment something came to hit me, I just got disturbed and then I stretched out my limit. All right, and I became so loud. That is amplitude. All right, so amplitude is used to describe, The amplitude is used to describe the size of the wave. The size of the wave. That is one actual thing about amplitude. All right. Let's have a look at what amplitude is. The picture of an amplitude on our screen. Let's look at it. All right. So what we see here is that from the first picture, we have amplitude, just the amplitude, telling you the size of the wave. The size of the sound wave as you see it over there. And then let's look at the differences between a quieter amplitude and a louder amplitude. With a quieter amplitude, you see that the matter wasn't so much displaced. All right, there wasn't so much disturbance with the matter. But with the louder amplitude, you see it outstretched the more. So this is a typical example of a quieter amplitude and a louder amplitude. All right. So whenever you are listening to music and the music sounds so loud, it means its amplitude or its magnitude is so high. You just have to understand that. So you can just tell the person, in fact, don't even take your mind back or so far away. Just listen to, oh, can you amplify the volume? Have you heard of it before? Yeah, amplification. So when the sound is getting louder or quieter, you are able to measure its amplitude. All right, let's move on to its mathematical representation. So following the formula, loudness is directionally proportional to the amplitude of the sound. If the amplitude of a sound wave is large, then the loudness sound will be more. If the amplitude of the sound is loud, okay, then the sound will be loud. The amplitude will be so high. If it is feeble, it will be low, or it will be quieter. So looking at it, this is the mathematical representation of this amplitude that we see. X is equal to A sine angular frequency in radians. All right. So per what you see over here, let's look at the various interpretation of what I've just given. Various presentation. Okay. X is the displacement of meters. A is the amplitude in meters. Then that W you see over there is the angular frequency. It is called the angular frequency. And then the T you see is the time. And then this sign you see is the phase shift. Usually you see phase cut over here. This is the actual symbol, phase shift in radians. When the phase is shifted, all right, the amplitude also changes. Can we go on to the next point? We look at time period. All right, a period can be said to be the time taken to do something. If an event occurs repeatedly, then the event is said to be periodic. Then the event is said to be periodic. All right, so what all that I'm trying to say about time is that with timing, you should know that as the distance, as the sound is traveling in a particular wavelength, as the sound is traveling in a particular distance or direction, definitely it takes time to move around there, here and there, okay? Okay, so that is the time. Now let's look at how time is calculated. Let's just move on to how time is calculated, and then you know why even with your delays you are able to calculate. So a time is denoted by T. It's the time taken for one complete cycle of a variation or vibration to pass a given output. All right? Are you with me? All right. So if it's able to, if a period is taken to go on a complete cycle within one vibration, that is time. Okay. So we look at time as T is equal to 1 over F. 1 over F. Or F is equal to, because we see that the unit for time, frequency and time periods are in proportional differences, okay? They are in proportional differences. All right. So we have 1 over F. If you are finding time, and if you are finding that of frequency, it's 1 over T. And if you have, what period means 1 over F, as I've already said. It is also referred to as temporary frequency because we say it is momentarily when something is disturbed in a momentary fraction. All right, let's move on to the next one, the fourth property of sound. We have what we call velocity. The moment you hear velocity, you know that we are talking about speed. Speed. The distance traveled by a wave in 1 second is called velocity of the wave. Hello, sorry viewers, there are you hear some background noise. Forgive us. I mean, there are little hitches out where we are. There are other operations going on elsewhere. So forgive us. We promise we will do everything within our power to get hold of it. Okay, thank you. Let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we will be done with the next two properties. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kyle from Music Tribe Technical Support. I'm here today with Guitar Center to talk about the new Behringer Wing Personal Mixing Console. The Wing Personal Mixing Console is the new digital mixer from Behringer. The Wing is a fully stereo mixing console featuring 48 stereo input channels, 28 stereo buses, a 10-inch capacitive touchscreen, touch-sensitive rotary encoders, a 24 fader fully customizable control surface, and a new point-to-point routing system that allows you to select from 374 different inputs and outputs. The lighting on all of the scribble strips, LEDs, soft buttons, the patch panel in the rear of the console, and the underglow of the console can all be adjusted and personalized to how you like to work. With the flexibility, customization, and portability of the Wing, it's perfect for your touring act, house of worship, concert venue, or recording studio. The Wing I/O features 374 inputs and outputs, starting with the high-quality Midas Pro Series microphone preamplifiers, the 8 XLR outputs, an 8x8 1/4-inch TRS aux input and output section, and all of this digital I/O. We have 2 audio over IP ports that can be configured either for remote control data or optionally Wave SoundGrid or Dante enabled so that the console speaks Waves or Dante natively. You also have a 48 by 48 channel USB interface for connection to your DAW for recording purposes. We have 3 AES-50 ports. Now these can be connected to any existing M32 and X32 units as well as any existing stage boxes like the Behringer S16 or the Midas DL153. Next, you have Stage Connect, which is a new development from Clark Technic. Now, Stage Connect allows you to pass 32 channels, 24-bit, 48K digital audio down a single XLR connection. This can be configured as 24 by 8 or 16 by 16, depending on your purpose, maybe a personal monitoring system or a breakout box. We also have an AES EBU input and output, as well as the 64 by 64 expansion card slot, which right now has the Wing Live expansion card, which is a dual SD card recorder, each capable of 32 by 32 inputs and outputs. So you can use one card for playing audio back while you use another for recording. These have separate controls. Here, I have a session here that I will play back.
But you know I'm a stranger, all willing and able to do what you want. You think
Right now we have a virtual sound check playing back from the Wing Live expansion card. I'm going to go into our routing menu here and show you the source system.
Okay, viewers, welcome back. Sorry for that interruption, but it seems we have a situation here, so let's concentrate and go on with what we're having. All right, so I was talking about speed. So speed basically talks about the weight or the rate at which sound is able to travel, all right, in a particular medium, whether gas medium or liquid or whatever. But it should be noted that sound travels slowly in gases, and it's faster faster in liquids, as well as far or very faster and in water, all right, or sorry, in solids. Okay, so get to know that one. Let me move on. As I said, our tidbits notes will be made available on our various pages. Let's move on. So we also have what you call frequency. Frequency. And this topic is where I will end with today's one. So at least today you are getting to know about various properties. Then from next week, God willing, we will delve much into what we are going to look about with frequency. When we talk about frequency, this is what most of us work with every day in our everyday situation. Okay? Frequency in our daily work. All right? Now, frequency, we are saying that it is the number of complete waves or cycles that is produced in 1 second of every wave. The number of cycles or complete wave, papa, when it is able to done, all right? It's done and it is produced in 1 second. That is frequency. So the rate at which the number of times that something is able to do, that is frequency. Okay? The number of times a wave is able to repeat itself within a second, within a particular time frame of second. So you now know that whether it is loud in its amplitude form, it has a distance or wavelength that it catches. The number of times, and you also know the period or time period, the number of times it is able to complete within a second, a sound wave is able to complete within a second, that is frequency. Okay? All right, so do you know that the frequency of a wave is fixed? Do you know that one? I'm asking you a question. You can, if you don't know, you just tell me you don't know. If you know it for yourself. That the frequency of so fixed and does not change, even when it passes through different substances, whether in gaseous state, whether in solid state, whether in other medium, it hasn't changed. It's always fixed. If there is a frequency measure of 1 kilohertz, and you even put it into water, if you put it into water or banku or wherever, it's still 1 kilohertz. It doesn't change. All right. Now, as I've already said, the type of frequency that I have already aforementioned, which our ears can hear as a human being in our physiological beings, as humans that we can hear, the range of frequency that we can hear, we call it the audio frequency or the audible frequency. I've said that one already. Okay? And that it is that frequency which is audible to the average human being. And it is that property of sound that most determines the pitch. It determines the pitch. So, the loudness, and how it is worked. It determines that pitch. Okay? So, and let's say, let me teach this one. The SI unit of frequency is hertz, or you may call it Hz. So when you hear someone saying, oh, this is 10 kilohertz, 1 kilo is 100 hertz, 20 hertz, 50 hertz, and all that, you should know that a frequency is working within a range of hertz. All right? Now, 1 hertz of frequency is just called hertz. Then we come to the tens of hertz. We have tens of hertz as 1 hertz, 10 hertz, 20 hertz, and so on and so forth. All right. So 100 hertz. 100 hertz is normal. But if we have 1,000 hertz for yourself, you may just call it kilohertz. All right? You call it a kilohertz. Kilo stands for 1,000. So when you hear 1 kilohertz, it means thousands of frequencies that is ranging within a second. That is working within a second. That is repeating itself within a second. That is a frequency, a 1K hertz of frequency. All right. Now, I've already said that the audio spectrum that is audible to our frequency range, that is audible to our frequency range as human beings, is from 20 hertz up to 20,000 hertz, which is 20 kilohertz, up to 20,000 hertz. Basically, there are 3 types or 3 ranges. There are 3 ranges of frequencies that we have. Basically, these are low range frequency, mid range frequency, and then the high range frequency. Low range frequency, mid range frequency, and the high range frequency. All right. And these 3 frequencies are going to be expanded into 7 kinds of frequencies. So viewers, today we will only look at the types of the frequencies we have. We have the low range frequency, mid range frequency, and the high range frequency. These are the 3 basic categories. And then we also have, they can also be further be broken into 7. The 7 are sub-bass, bass, low mid-range, and upper mid-range. Sub-bass, bass, low mid-range, upper mid-range, presence, and brilliance. So we have 7 of them that are broken down. God willing, from next week, we will look at what each and every one of these ranges of frequencies are. All right? So, yeah, it's 10 minutes past 1 o'clock. So I would want us to end here with our lesson. So for today, we just looked at what sound is, the various properties and the various characteristics of sound that we have. We said that there are 5 basic properties or characteristics of sound. We have the wavelength, we have the amplitude, we have the, we have the wavelength, the amplitude, we have the speed or the velocity, we have the frequency, all right? And then the rest, all of them are there. So these were the various kinds. And we also spoke about, I'm just recapping what we did. We also spoke about the types of frequencies that we have. We looked at the SI units for each and every one of these. We know that the amplitude has an SI unit. We also looked at how it is measured in. When I talk about SI unit, I know I'm talking about how it is measured in. All right. We also said the amplitude has its SI unit. The wavelength has its SI unit. Frequency has its SI unit. All right. Time, which is time t, also has its SI unit. All right. And they all have their measures, their measures that we use in. Okay. And then I've also made it clear that sound does not just travel anyhow. Before sound travels, it must have a medium. So sound cannot travel in a vacuum. Sound travels in a medium, either in a gaseous state or in a gas, like air that we breathe, in solids, and then as well as in liquids. Okay, so don't think that sound can only travel on the land. There is sound in the sea. There is sound within every solid part. All right, and then we also spoke about the various types of frequencies that we have. We have the low range. Basically, there are 3, but they are sub and further broken into 7 parts. So we have the 3 are the low range, the mid range, and the high range frequencies. Also, when we come to the 7 frequency bands that we have the sub bass, the bass, the low mid range, the upper mid-range, and then presence as well as brilliance. Presence and brilliance. So these are the 7 ranges of frequencies that we have. God willing, on next week, I've not yet seen any Facebook, I've not seen any question or application of questions yet on our pages. If there is, I'll just answer the questions as and when the days go by. All right. But once again, I plead with you that forgive us for today's sound because of the hitches we are having at the background. While we are having the program or the whole show, there is also another operations going out there. So forgive us for today. We promise you a better sound background next week and the following week, the weeks ahead. All right. Thank you. God bless you. And that we say bye-bye. God bless you.
Now, rather than channels existing as a